The year was 2389, and humanity had just begun to believe they were alone in the universe. After centuries of searching the stars, exploring distant galaxies, and finding only empty planets in silent space, Earth scientists had nearly given up hope of finding intelligent life. That changed on a Tuesday morning when the deep space monitors detected something impossible. Zara Chun stood in the observation deck of the research station, orbiting Kepler 442b, her dark eyes fixed on the massive ships approaching through the void. As Earth's leading xenolinguist, she had dreamed of this moment her entire career, but nothing could have prepared her for what she was seeing. The vessels were unlike anything human technology could produce, elegant and organic in design, seeming to pulse with an inner light that reminded her of a heartbeat. Captain Dex Morrison joined her at the viewing port, his weathered hands gripping the rail. He had seen his share of wonders during his 30 years piloting ships between Earth's colonies, but this left him speechless. The approaching fleet moved with a grace that defied the laws of physics as humans understood them, each ship unique, yet part of a harmonious whole. "How many are there?" Zara whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the station systems. "Sensors show 47 vessels," Dex replied, his pilot's instincts automatically cataloging what he observed. "But they're not like anything in our databases. The energy signatures are completely unknown. First contact protocol. Communication came not through radio waves or quantum channels, but directly into their minds. It was a sensation unlike anything either human had experienced, warm and ancient, carrying with it images and emotions that spoke of millennia of existence among the stars." Zara gasped as the mental contact established itself. Her consciousness suddenly expanded to touch something vast and incredibly old. "Greetings, young ones of Earth." The voice resonated in their thoughts, neither male nor female, but something beyond such simple classifications. "We are the Draconic Collective, and we have traveled far to meet the species that has finally learned to reach beyond their birth world." Zara's training kicked in despite her amazement. She focused her thoughts, attempting to project a response. "We welcome you to our space. I am Zara Chun, representing Earth's scientific community. We wish to establish peaceful communication." The presence in her mind seemed to chuckle, a sound like distant thunder mixed with music. "Your thoughts are clear and honest, young linguist. I am Valdris, voice of the collective for this contact. May we approach your station?" The magnificent revelation. When the lead vessel docked with their station, Zara and Dex waited in the main bay with a small team of researchers and security personnel. Nothing could have prepared them for what emerged from the ship. Valdris was magnificent in a way that made human words seem inadequate. Standing nearly 12 feet tall, his form was humanoid, but clearly something far more ancient and powerful. His skin held an iridescent quality that shifted between deep emerald and gold, and his eyes were pools of liquid starlight. Most striking were the elegant horns that curved back from his forehead and the suggestion of great wings folded against his back, beneath flowing robes that seemed to be made of captured aurora. But it was not his alien appearance that struck Zara most forcefully. It was the immediate sense of connection she felt when their eyes met, a recognition that went beyond species or physical form. Something deep within her soul responded to his presence, and she could see in his ancient gaze that he felt it too. "You are more than we expected," Valdris said aloud, his voice a rich baritone that resonated through the bay. "Your species holds a potential we have not encountered in our travels across the galaxy." Dex stepped forward, his military bearing intact despite his obvious awe. "We're honored by your visit. Earth would like to establish formal diplomatic relations." Valdris nodded, but his attention kept returning to Zara. "Tell me, young one, what do you see when you look upon me?" Zara felt heat rise in her cheeks, but answered honestly. "I see someone ancient and wise, but also someone who has traveled far, seeking something he has not yet found. I see beauty in a form I never imagined possible. The dragon's expression softened, and several of his companions exchanged meaningful glances. And I see in you a spirit that burns as brightly as the stars we have traveled between. Your species intrigues us greatly. An unexpected connection over the following days, as formal negotiations began between the Draconic Collective and Earth's representatives. Zara found herself drawn repeatedly into private conversations with Valdris. Their mental connection deepened, allowing them to share thoughts and memories with an intimacy that surprised them both. In all my centuries of existence, Valdris confided as they stood together in the station's botanical garden, I have never encountered a mind that resonates so perfectly with my own. Is this what your people call love? Zara's heart raced at the question. She had been wondering the same thing, fighting against the impossibility of what she was feeling. I don't know what else to call it. But how can this be possible between such different species? Valdris reached out with one elegant, clawed hand to gently touch her cheek. His skin was warm and seemed to pulse with an inner light. Perhaps the universe has its own wisdom about such things. My people have legends of bonds that transcend physical form, connections of the soul that bridge any gap. Their relationship developed with a speed that surprised everyone, including themselves. Zara found that she could sense Valdris's emotions, even when they were in different parts of the station, and he seemed to anticipate her thoughts before she voiced them. The other dragons watched with fascination, while the human crew struggled to understand what they were witnessing. Captain Morrison pulled Zara aside one evening, his concern evident. I've seen a lot of things in my years out here, but this is beyond anything I've encountered. Are you sure you know what you're getting into? Zara looked through the viewport at the dragon ships, their gentle glow a constant presence in the darkness. I'm not sure of anything except that what I feel is real. Valdris isn't just alien. Dex, he's someone I never knew I was looking for. The growing bond as the negotiations continued. It became clear that the dragons were interested in more than just diplomatic contact. They spoke of an ancient prophecy about a young species that would help them complete some cosmic purpose, and their attention focused increasingly on humanity's unique combination of curiosity, creativity, and emotional depth. Your people are remarkable, Valdris explained to the assembled human delegation. In our travels, we have encountered species that are more advanced technologically, others that are more powerful physically, but none that burn with such passionate intensity. You create art that moves the soul. You explore not from necessity, but from wonder, and you form bonds that transcend logic. The dragon delegation began spending more time among the humans, learning their customs and sharing their own ancient wisdom. Several other connections began to form, though none as intense as what had developed between Zara and Valdiar. His Dr. Rebecca Santos, the station's chief biologist, found herself in long conversations with a younger dragon named Aurelius about the evolution of consciousness across species. Engineer Tom Bradley discovered he shared a love of complex mechanical puzzles with a dragon called Crystalline, whose scaled skin actually contained living crystal matrices that could compute mathematical relationships. But it was the bond between Zara and Valdris that seemed to fascinate the dragons most. Their connection had grown so strong that they could communicate telepathically across great distances, and their emotions had begun to synchronize in ways that neither species had thought possible. The universe has chosen to reveal one of its greatest mysteries through you too, Elder Sage Mistral observed during one of the formal sessions. The connection you share may be the key to understanding why we were drawn to seek out your species. As Part 1 came to a close, both species realized they stood at the threshold of something unprecedented in galactic history. The growing romantic bonds between humans and dragons threatened to reshape everything they thought they knew about love, consciousness, and the very nature of connection across the stars. Foundations had been laid for a relationship that would challenge every assumption about what was. possible between different forms of life, setting the stage for the greater revelations and conflicts that were yet to come. 3 weeks after first contact, the harmony between humans and dragons faced its first serious challenge. Queen Seraphina, the ancient ruler of the Draconic Collective, arrived aboard a vessel that dwarfed all the others. Her ship was a living work of art, its hull seeming to breathe with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like a galaxy's heartbeat. When she materialized in the station's main conference hall, the very air seemed to thicken with her presence. Queen Seraphina was breathtaking and terrifying in equal measure. Her scales shifted between deep violet and silver, and her eyes held the weight of countless millennia. Unlike the other dragons, she made no attempt to appear approachable to human sensibilities. Valdris, her voice carried, harmonics that made the station's metal walls vibrate. Explain to me why you have allowed yourself to become entangled with this primitive species. Zara felt. Valdris tensed beside her, but he stood his ground. They are not primitive, my queen. Their emotional capacity far exceeds anything we have encountered. The bond I share with Zara proves that consciousness recognizes consciousness, regardless of physical form. Queen Seraphine's gaze fixed on Zara with an intensity that made the human woman feel as though her soul was being examined under a microscope. You claim to love one of my people, little human. Do you understand what you ask? Dragons mate for eternity. Our bonds transcend death itself. Are you prepared for such commitment? Zara's knees trembled, but she met the queen's stare without flinching. Your Majesty, I don't fully understand what's happening between Valdris and me, but I know it's real. If eternal commitment is what love means to your people, then yes, I accept it. Political tensions rise. Ambassador Cole. Rivers arrived from Earth the following day aboard the diplomatic cruiser Harmony. A seasoned negotiator in his 50s, Rivers had handled first contact protocols with 3 previous alien species, though none as complex as this situation. He brought with him a team of xenobiologists, cultural specialists, and unfortunately, a contingent of military advisors who viewed the dragon presence with suspicion. Dr. Chun. Rivers approached Zara in the station's cafeteria. I need to understand exactly what kind of relationship you've developed with this creature. Earth's Security Council is concerned about potential psychological manipulation. Zara set down her coffee cup with more force than necessary. Valdris isn't manipulating me, Ambassador. What we share is genuine connection, something your military advisors wouldn't understand. I've read the reports. Rivers continued, his tone diplomatic but firm. Telepathic contact, emotional synchronization, claims of interspecies romantic attachment. These could be signs of advanced psychological conditioning. Before Zara could respond, Valdris appeared in the doorway. His usual graceful composure showed signs of strain, and Zara immediately sensed his distress through their bond. The Queen has forbidden any further personal relationships between our species, he announced, his mental voice touching Zara's mind with anguish. She believes such connections compromise our mission. Forbidden's love blooms, despite the official prohibitions. The connections that had formed between humans and dragons continued to deepen. Zara and Valdris met in secret in the station's observation lounges during the night shift, sharing thoughts and dreams that bridged the gap between their species. Tell me about your world, Zara whispered as they sat together watching the stars, her hand resting on Valdris's scaled forearm. The contact sent warmth through both their bodies, a physical manifestation of their psychic bond. Valdris's thoughts painted pictures in her mind of crystal cities that sang in harmony with solar winds, of vast libraries carved into living mountains where the accumulated wisdom of millions of years was stored in crystalline matrices. We are an old people, perhaps too old. We had forgotten what it meant to feel wonder until we encountered your species. What did the Queen mean about your mission? Zara asked, though part of her feared the answer. Valdres was quiet for a long moment, his inner turmoil evident through their connection. We have traveled the galaxy for millennia, seeking what our prophecies call the catalyst species, a young race whose emotional intensity could help us complete our evolutionary transformation. But the Queen fears that personal attachments will corrupt this process. Their conversation was interrupted by footsteps in the corridor. Captain Morrison appeared, followed by Dr. Santos, who was trying unsuccessfully to look casual, despite the obvious excitement in her eyes. "Sorry to interrupt," Morrison said with a slight smile, "but Rebecca has something she thinks you both need to hear." Dr. Santos pulled out a tablet displaying complex genetic sequences. "I've been analyzing the biological scans we took of our dragon visitors. What I found is extraordinary. Your genetic structures aren't as different as we assumed. In fact, there are compatibility markers that suggest interbreeding might actually be possible." Valdres straightened, his eyes widening with amazement. "That is impossible. We are separated by millions of years of evolution." "That's what I thought too," Santos continued, "but the quantum signature of your DNA suggests common origins. Very ancient common origins. It's as if both our species were designed to eventually find each other." The secret romance spreads. Word of Dr. Santos's discovery spread quickly through both communities, despite official attempts to suppress it. More human-dragon pairs began forming connections that went beyond mere diplomatic interest. Engineer Bradley found himself spending entire nights in deep telepathic communion with Crystalline, their minds merging to solve complex multidimensional mathematics problems that neither species could tackle alone. The solutions they developed advanced human technology by decades and gave the dragons new insights into the nature of reality itself. Communications. Officer Lisa Park discovered she could harmonize her voice with the resonant frequencies produced by a dragon called resonance, creating music that seemed to open doorways in consciousness itself. Their concerts in the station's commons areas drew crowds from both species, creating moments of unity that transcended political boundaries. It was the relationship between Zara and Valdres that remained the most intense and controversial. Their bond had grown so strong that they experienced shared dreams and could feel each other's emotions across vast distances. When Zara was injured in a minor accident, Valdres felt her pain as if it were his own and appeared at her side within moments. Despite being in a meeting with the Queen's ultimatum, Queen Seraphine's patience finally reached its limit when she discovered that several of her people had begun sharing not just emotional bonds, but actual genetic material with their human partners through a process of quantum entanglement that neither species fully understood. "This ends now," she declared at an emergency assembly of both delegations. "We came to evaluate humanity's potential as our catalyst species, not to contaminate ourselves with primitive emotional attachments." Ambassador Rivers seized the moment to assert Earth's position. "Your Majesty, with respect, these relationships appear to be naturally occurring phenomena. Perhaps we should study them rather than suppress them." "You understand nothing," the Queen's mental voice thundered through every mind present. "The transformation we seek requires purity of purpose. These personal entanglements threaten everything we have worked toward for millennia." Valdres stood, his entire being radiating defiance in a way that shocked everyone who knew him. "My Queen, with deepest respect, I believe you are wrong. What I share with Zara has not weakened me. It has awakened capabilities I never knew I possessed. Perhaps the prophecy was not about using humans as catalysts, but about joining with them as equals." The silence that followed was deafening. Never in recorded dragon history had anyone openly challenged the Queen's authority, the unexpected alliance. Before Queen Seraphina could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Captain Morrison's voice echoed over the communication system. "All personnel to emergency stations. We have multiple unidentified vessels approaching at high speed. The view screens activated to show a fleet of sleek, predatory ships unlike anything either species had encountered. Their hulls were matte black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it, and they moved with the coordinated precision of a hive mind. "The Void Hunters," Queen Seraphina whispered, and for the first time since her arrival, Zara heard fear in the ancient dragon's voice. "I had hoped we had lost them between the galaxies." Ambassador Rivers turned to the Queen with new urgency. "Are they hostile?" "They consume consciousness itself," Valders answered grimly. "They have been pursuing my people for thousands of years, seeking to drain our mental energy to fuel their own existence." As the first wave of Void Hunter ships opened fire on the station, something remarkable happened. The human-dragon pairs, who had formed deep bonds, found their abilities amplifying exponentially. Zara and Valdez's combined consciousness allowed them to predict the enemy's attack patterns with uncanny accuracy. Bradley and Crystalline's merged intellects calculated defensive strategies that seemed to come from nowhere. Park and Resonance's harmonic abilities actually disrupted the Void Hunter's communication frequencies. By the ancient fires, Queen Seraphina breathed, watching the impossible coordination between the bonded pairs. The prophecy was not about transformation at all. It was about synthesis. The battle raged around the sea station as both species realized that their survival depended not on maintaining separation, but on embracing the unprecedented connections that had formed between them. The Forbidden's love that had seemed to threaten their missions was actually the key to their mutual salvation. As Part 2 concluded, the combined human-dragon fleet prepared for a fight that would determine not just their own futures, but the fate of consciousness itself in their corner of the galaxy. The Void Hunter fleet descended upon the research station like a swarm of mechanical locusts, their ships moving in perfect synchronization as they unleashed weapons that seemed to tear holes in reality itself. The station's shields flickered and sparked under the assault, while emergency lights bathed the corridors in an ominous red glow. In the command center, Queen Seraphina stood beside Ambassador Rivers, watching the tactical displays with growing concern. The enemy ships weren't just firing conventional weapons. They were deploying consciousness-draining fields that left their victims as empty husks, their life force consumed to power the Void Hunter's endless hunger. "Our traditional defenses are useless against them," Queen Seraphina admitted, her pride evident in how difficult the words were for her to speak. "They have adapted to counter every strategy we have developed over millennia of violence, conflict." Zara and Valdres stood at the center of the chaos, their minds perfectly synchronized as they processed incoming data at impossible speeds. Through their bond, they could sense the Void Hunter's attack patterns before the enemy ships even changed course. "There," Zara pointed to a section of the tactical display. "They're going to concentrate their fire on the station's power core in 37 seconds. Captain Morrison didn't question the prediction. He had learned to trust the bonded pair's unprecedented abilities. "All defensive batteries, focus on Grid 7 Alpha. Prepare for incoming fire." The station's weapons swiveled to meet the attack exactly where Zara had predicted, their combined firepower managing to deflect the worst of the assault. But everyone knew they were only buying time. The young dragon's sacrifice among the dragon delegation was Nyx, barely past adolescence by her people's standards. Her scales held the deep purple of twilight, and her eyes burned with the fierce independence that marked the young of any species. She had been quietly observing the human-dragon bonds with fascination, particularly drawn to Dr. Elena Voss, a quantum physicist whose theories about interdimensional consciousness had revolutionized human understanding of reality. "Elena," Nyx approached the scientist as explosions rocked the station around them. "I have an idea, but it requires absolute trust between us." Elena looked up from her calculations, noting the urgency in the young dragon's voice. Over the past weeks, she had developed a deep appreciation for Nyx's brilliant mind. though their relationship had remained purely intellectual until now. "What do you need?" Elena asked without hesitation. "The Void Hunters feed on individual consciousness," Nyx explained rapidly. "But what if we gave them something they cannot digest? What if we merged not just human and dragon awareness, but created a hybrid consciousness that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously?" Elena's eyes widened as she grasped the implications. "That's theoretically possible, but the psychic stress could destroy both our minds. Or it could create something entirely new," Nyx replied, extending her clawed hand toward Elena, "something the Void Hunters have never encountered." The synthesis begins as the two young women joined hands. Their combined consciousness exploded outward in ways neither species had imagined possible. Elena's quantum theories merged with Nyx's instinctive understanding of dimensional mechanics, creating a hybrid intelligence that could perceive reality across multiple planes of existence simultaneously. Their transformation sent ripples through the mental network connecting all the bonded pairs. Zara gasped as her awareness suddenly expanded, allowing her to see not just the current battle, but probability streams showing potential futures branching out like infinite trees. "The synthesis is spreading," Valdris observed with wonder, his ancient mind struggling to process what he was experiencing. "Each bonded pair is becoming something greater than the sum of their parts." Throughout the station, the human-dragon couples found their abilities amplifying exponentially. Bradley and Crystalline's merged consciousness began rewriting the station's defense systems in real time, creating adaptive shields that learned from each enemy attack. Park and Resonance discovered they could project harmonic frequencies that disrupted the Void Hunter's hive mind. Communications. Queen Seraphina watched in amazement as her carefully ordered understanding of the universe crumbled and reformed. "This was the true meaning of the prophecy," she whispered. "Not transformation or catalyst, but evolution itself. Our species were meant to become something new together. Love transcendent." Battle reached its climax as the largest Void Hunter vessel, a massive ship that seemed to devour starlight itself, moved to deliver the killing blow to the station. Its consciousness-draining field was so powerful that unprotected humans and dragons began collapsing throughout the facility. "I can stop it," Zara announced, her voice carrying harmonics that hadn't been there before. "But I need to merge completely with Valdris. Not just minds, but souls. The process is irreversible," Valdris warned, though his own voice carried the same impossible harmonics. "We will become something that has never existed before. We may not survive as individuals." Zara looked into his starlight eyes and smiled with absolute certainty. "Then we'll survive as something better." Their final merger was visible to everyone on the station as a pillar of pure light that seemed to connect the physical realm with dimensions beyond normal perception. Zara and Valdris's individual identities dissolved and reformed into a hybrid consciousness that existed simultaneously as human passion and dragon wisdom. New entity they had become reached out with abilities that transcended both species' limitations. Instead of fighting the Void Hunter's consciousness-draining attack, they embraced it, but fed the enemy something unexpected, a form of awareness so alien and complex that it overwhelmed their ability to process it. The massive Void Hunter ship shuddered and went dark, its crew unable to comprehend the hybrid consciousness they had tried to consume. One by one, the other enemy vessels followed suit, their hive mind network collapsing as it encountered thoughts that existed in too many dimensions for them to understand. The new era dawns in the aftermath of the battle. Both species struggled to understand what they had become. The bonded pairs remained as individuals, but they had gained access to a shared consciousness network that connected them across any distance. They could exist as separate beings or merge into hybrid entities as needed, their love having literally evolved them into something new. Elena and Nyx emerged from their merger changed, but intact, their relationship having deepened into something that transcended the physical differences between their species. They had proven that love could indeed bridge any gap, even the vast spaces between different forms of life. We are no longer two species. Queen Seraphina addressed the combined assembly, her ancient authority now tempered with wonder. We have become something unprecedented in galactic history. The universe has used our hearts to write a new chapter in the story of consciousness itself. Ambassador, Rivers shook his head in amazement. Earth's government will never believe this report. Romance between species leading to evolutionary transformation? It sounds like something from a fantasy novel. Then perhaps the merged consciousness of Zara and Valdris spoke with voices that harmonized perfectly. It's time for reality to embrace a little more fantasy. The cosmic wedding 6 months later, the research station had been transformed into something resembling a living cathedral. The ceremony taking place, there was unlike anything in the recorded history of either species. The first formal wedding between human and dragon consciousness. Zara and Valdris stood at the altar in their merged form, a being of impossible beauty that seemed to shift between human and dragon characteristics as emotions flowed through them. Around them, dozens of other bonded pairs had gathered to witness this historic moment. Queen Seraphina, now bearing the new title of Harmony Keeper, performed the ceremony using vows that had been written collaboratively by both species. Do you, hybrid consciousness of two hearts made one, promise to explore the infinite possibilities of love across all dimensions of existence? We do, they replied, their voice a perfect harmony of human warmth and dragon wisdom. Elena and Nyx exchanged their own vows, promising to spend their lives exploring the quantum mysteries of consciousness together. Bradley and Crystalline pledged to build technologies that would help other species achieve similar synthesis. Park and Resonance vowed to compose the music that would guide future generations toward unity. The endless story continues as the celebrations concluded. Reports began arriving from across the galaxy. Other species, inspired by the human-dragon synthesis, were beginning to explore their own potential for consciousness evolution. The rigid barriers between different forms of life were crumbling as love proved to be the ultimate force for transformation. Captain Morrison, now bearing the title of Bridge Builder between the species, stood at the observation deck watching new ships arrive daily. Each vessel brought representatives from different worlds, all seeking to understand how love had accomplished what centuries of warfare and diplomacy had failed to achieve. What happens next? Asked Dr. Santos, who had formed her own bond with a dragon philosopher named Wisdom Keeper. The merged consciousness of Zara and Valdris appeared beside them, their form now comfortable shifting between individual and hybrid states. What happens next is whatever we choose to create together. The universe has shown us that consciousness has no limits when it's founded on love. The story never really ends. Valdris's individual voice added with gentle humor. It just becomes more beautiful with each new chapter. As if in response to his words, another fleet of ships appeared at the edge of sensor range. These newcomers bore the elegant designs of the Crystalline Collective, a species of living crystal beings who had monitored the human-dragon synthesis with growing fascination. Queen Seraphina smiled, her expression holding warmth that would have been impossible before the transformation. It appears our little romance has attracted quite an audience. Perhaps it's time to discover what other impossible loves the universe has in store for us. The station's communication systems activated as the new arrivals requested permission to dock. Their message was simple but profound. We have traveled far to learn about this thing you call love between different species. Will you teach us? And so the endless story continued, with each new species that joined their growing alliance adding new dimensions to the ever-expanding definition of what it meant to love, across the boundaries of form and consciousness. The universe had indeed laughed at humanity's presumption to reach for the stars, but now it sang with joy at what love could accomplish when hearts were open to infinite possibilities. The future stretched ahead, filled with promise, adventure, and the endless potential for love to transform consciousness itself into something more beautiful than any single species could achieve alone.